New Zealand bill to ban LGBTQ conversion practices receives record 100,000 submissions.
Here's a summary of the article.
More than 100,000 people have sent in submissions on New Zealand's plan to ban LGBTQ conversion practices, more than have ever been made on a piece of legislation. "We've already made history with this movement and we're not even done," said Shaniel Lal, an activist and organizer in the movement to ban conversion practices. The government received a total of 106,700 submissions on the bill, which will make it a crime to conduct conversion practices, or attempting to change someone's sexuality or gender identity. It is more than double the submissions received on other recent controversial legislation, including the end-of-life euthanasia bill, which Stuff reported was the previous record holder at 40,000 submissions. It was close to 5 times the number of submissions received on the bill legalizing same-sex marriage in 2013. The submissions have not yet been processed, so it is unknown how many were in favor of a ban, but Lal was optimistic that the majority would be, after a large-scale social media campaign asking people to submit their support. Lal said the campaign's template for a submission to ban conversion practices had been opened more than 300,000 times. Conversion therapy is still legal in many parts of the world, including the UK and many states in the US. The United Nations Independent Expert on Protection Against Violence and Discrimination based on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity found conversion practices caused significant loss of self-esteem, anxiety, depressive syndrome, social isolation, intimacy difficulty, self-hatred, shame and guilt, sexual dysfunction, suicidal ideation and suicide attempts and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder.
This post received a score of 6,900, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
I was one of those 100,000. Fuck conversion therapy.
What's a submission? Here? I'm from USA. Here we would have petitions to create a bill that gets signatures from the public, but I don't think there are things like that once a bill has already been created and is being debated or up for vote. That seems like a much better, more official way to comment on a bill as a public citizen compared to, just call your representative. If it makes you feel better, they're just as free to ignore online petitions as they are when you call them up. Look at the UK's equivalent where 99% of petitions are instantly denied.
5 petitions have reached the threshold, all were then supported by the public, and all have been essentially ignored by the government. Not a statement on whether they should or shouldn't be ignored. In some cases I would agree to ignore, and others I would not. They can be ignored like anything else, but it's also an effective way of seeing the public's interest in something, and their view on it.
This practice needs banning worldwide.
Conversion is a massively inhumane idea. People need to stop thinking about how other people enjoy intimacy. These thought processes are leading to incredibly icky and perverse actions.
Certain religious people's obsession with other people's genitals and sex life has always struck me as rather voyeuristic. And not the good type of voyeurism between consenting perverts, the dodgy problematic type. The EWW get away from my bedroom window type.
It's surprising that anyone still supports that and it hasn't been made illegal worldwide.
Meanwhile, Australia has become a fascist utopia while New Zealand is becoming a liberal paradise. Lol.
Money laundering, child trafficking, charging the dead and charging fees for no service, fueling a drug epidemic in Africa, failing to pay out in insurance claims. The craziest thing, however, is that these jackasses are still sitting in their executive chairs after admitting to it all. Even misappropriating assets and accounting fraud to cover it up.
Those same big banks, or their NZ-branded subsidiaries, are also the big banks in NZ, though it's a NZ, after all, but NZ isn't being dragged down that same path. To me, it seems the banks are more of a symptom than a cause of the issues. They'll be as scummy as they are allowed to be, if it makes them money. The question is why they get away with more in some countries, Oz, than others, NZ.
Bro, I read that as conversation and I thought, well, that's fucked up, but then I read the comments and realized it said conversion, not conversation.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.